made of plastic. You know, some people are made of wood. Some people have hearts of stone. Some people are up to no good.
Welcome to the Thought Brothers. I'm Gary Johnson. I tell you, this is, we're going to talk about ethics in journalism and maybe journalistic integrity. We've got someone you've seen the last couple of podcasts, Raynard Jackson. He is not a part of the show, but he's a welcome guest right now. He's in our home. Edward Sargent, I want to turn to you because you have probably the most experience, I'm assuming, in journalism. Can you tell us about yourself? And then we're going to kick it off.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on this program with such great people. I've watched the Thought Brothers online several times, and I'm honored to be here. I'm from Washington, D.C. I grew up here. I started my journalism career with the Washington Informer newspaper under Dr. Calvin Rolock. And after that, I went to school in Missouri, the first school of journalism in America, and the best school of journalism in America. Got my degree from there. Came back home and worked for the Washington Post as a reporter. Now, Marion Barry, at that time, he was from Memphis, Tennessee, along with my parents. So he used to always say, "Hey, you ought to come work for me." And I would always say, "What are you talking about, man? I work at the Washington Post. Why are you even bothering me?" But it came to pass after a few years in the way I wanted to cover the community. I became a journalist to cover the Black community in particular. Why? These are my people. There are issues that need to be addressed. I'm not a PR person for the Black community. What I understand is when you take an organization or a people seriously, you're critical of them. You're critical of them. You look at them critically, and you also look at them and praise what they're doing right. If we are to be taken seriously, we should invite journalists to cover the community, but don't condemn the worst of these. So after a while, and I have a passion for working with Black men. I grew up with some people, guys who were very intelligent, very personable, good people, but ended up in jail, somewhat by accident. One of my best friends ended up in jail for murder. And so I wanted to work with Black men. I have a passion of working with Black men. Why? Well, these are my brothers. You know, it just makes sense. If I'm going to write and I'm going to spend my time journaling and writing the truth, why not just focus on the brothers, the least of these? The Black man is the lowest on the totem pole in terms of the way society in the around the globe are being treated. Just to wrap up, I finally took Marion Barry up on his offer, and I was the spokesman for the prison system. Okay, so I went from journalism to public information officer, and I've been independent for a number of years, okay, as a technical writer. And also one of my most fulfilling experiences as a writer and editor is working with Dr. Claude Anderson. Of course, he has a strong following. He's a very Black thinker. Powernomics, the National Plan for Black America, is the book he wrote that's most famous. And I'm his editor, and he gives me credit in his book. I was surprised to see that. He called my role with him as helping him shape issues, because I would challenge everything Dr. Claude Anderson did. I think that's what we do. I think everybody here is an accomplished person. And I think we can all agree. When if you respect something, and you respect a person, you put some pressure on them so they can get better. So my experience with Dr. Anderson was very fulfilling, and pretty much that's the background. I'm starting a publishing company. I'm working now with a gentleman who went to prison when he was 16 years old and came out when he was 41. And he's from New Orleans, and I've helped him write a book called Crime is Just Dumb. I have another project on reparations. I've written a semi-biographical biography on police brutality, and I'm offering solutions.
All right, hold up, Edward. Hold up. Let me have you pump your brakes. Hold up. I don't want you to get too far in before we start talking about some of the things that you are uniquely qualified to talk about in terms of journalism, but I also want Raynard, who's written for a number of years, to give folks a Reader's Digest version in case we have first-time viewers on who you are, and then we're going to jump into it with the fellas. Mr. Jackson.
All right, thanks, Gary, and good to see you guys, Bill, Carlos, and good to talk to you, Edward. I'm from St. Louis. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of friends, Edward, that graduated from Mizzou School of Journalism. So why they would accept you, I don't know, but that's a side discussion there. So, but I'm from St. Louis and came up here. I used to work for Old Man Bush, Bush 41, the president, which is how I ended up in DC. And after we left the White House, decided to open up my own shop and pester people like Spivey and Carlos and give them a hard time to keep their blood pressure up.
Okay. All right. Edward, you're our guest. I want to start off with you, and then the fellas can come in. Here's the question on the table. What is the intersection between ethical, fair journalism and moral imperatives? If there is no intersection, does that mean you would have given journalistic deference to someone like Hitler?
You know, that's interesting. Man, that is an interesting question because, of course, you and I spoke last night in preparation for this very important discussion we're here. Of course, you cover Hitler. Of course, you cover Hitler. I was totally enraptured by a documentary on Hitler on Netflix about a month or so ago. And it's important to understand people, the moral imperative versus the integrity, I think you said, of journalism, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's dangerous to judge somebody else's morality to a certain extent. Go ahead.
About Haitian
No, that's somebody else. Keep going.
Yeah, to question somebody's morality. I don't see myself as a journalist. You know, I really hold fast to independence and quote unquote objectivity. But here's the deal: we're all biased. But the key is, and I know right now I would chime in with me on this. The key is don't let that bias affect your writing to the extent that you're not giving the reader a balanced story. So everybody's balanced, okay? And it's like this. To make an analogy, okay. Black people, we've bought into this kumbaya, we shall overcome, etc. And what my position is this: as long as if I'm dealing with a white supremacist, if I'm working with a Klansman, I don't care he's a Klansman, as long as you don't come with me with the BS. Why? I'm not going to be able to change this person. I'm not trying to love this person. So I'm getting off track. The bottom line is, yeah, you have to cover the news, the truth. And you do it in a respectful way. 9/11. 9/11 is a perfect example. Do we still know why we were attacked? Have we heard or talked to anybody? Did we ever interview Osama bin Laden? Huh? So there's the bias right there. Our minds are really, to a great extent, controlled by the major media. Why? Because they're spoon feeding us what we're getting. We don't have any idea the worldwide media, what's being covered in India, in Africa, and China. We don't even see those newspapers. We don't even see their reporting. Okay, so yeah, I'm a big advocate. Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay. All right. Raynard, if you don't mind, I'm going to hold you for last. I want you to hear everything and then come off the top rope. Mr. Spivey, you're our researcher. What say you? You're on mute.
I haven't had a chance to do a lot of research on this question, but when it comes to ethics and journalism, what I will say is that I've been fortunate enough to live through maybe 5 generations, maybe 6, and I have seen how the news media has changed over the years. I mean, you used to have people like Harry Reasoner, Dan Rather, David Brinkley. Those type of people reported the news. Today, you have people in the news who not only report false narratives, who not only report things that they know for a fact or outright lie, and they also, you have people in the news media like Sean Hannity and some of the other ones who put their own personal opinions. And so, I prefer to listen to someone who's going to report the news straight up. The sad thing today is when I was growing up, we had to listen to the news. I remember sitting down in the 60s when I was in high school with my parents and watching the debates, Eisenhower and those people when they were debating. Today, that is not unheard of. I talked to a good friend of mine over the weekend who we had dinner with, and we got to talking about the debate and the politics and all. And she said, she was really hurt because she asked her granddaughter to sit down with her and watch the debate on Tuesday night. And she said her granddaughter told her, Nana, I'm not going to sit down for 2 hours and listen to a debate. I can catch it on TikTok in the morning. So what she's going to catch on TikTok is what they want her to hear. And so for me, I have seen journalism, for lack of a better word, go to shit. I know Reynard is going to go off on me with this, but when you hear somebody start talking about people eating dogs and cats, and everybody around knows that that's bullshit, and then you get the news media who makes it a national issue, that is troubling, because back in the day, you had politicians who lie. All politicians lie. I don't care whether they're Democrat or Republican. However, politicians did not lie and put people's lives in danger. This stuff in Springfield, Ohio, has put people's lives in danger. People can't walk the street. And I heard something the other day, and it said the Proud Boys even showed up in Pennsylvania. In Springfield, Ohio. This is when I talk about the changes that I've seen over the years. Because in 1975, 1980, the Proud Boys would have never come to Springfield, Ohio, because H. Rap Brown, Huey Newton, and a few of the boys would have been there to greet them. But with the assimilation and I guess the gentrification, that kind of unity and that kind of cohesiveness is lost. And so our young people today, they get all of their information from TikTok. They don't know what MSNBC is, and they don't know what CNN is.
Okay. Carlos, and we're going to go to Reynard.
Well, guys, couple things I wanted to touch on. Once upon a time, before I went down the financial road or path for a career, I studied pre-journalism. I was a pre-journalism major at University of Maryland. Did a little writing, high school, college, things like that. And what the professors and the teachers and the mentors teach you, I found a definition, or what we would like to say is a definition of ethics in journalism. Truth, accuracy, and objectivity are cornerstones of journalism ethics. Journalists are encouraged to maintain a degree of detachment from the religions, groups, or countries they are associated with in order to minimize potential biases in their reporting. Yes, and that's pretty much the message I got when I was in high school, college, wherever I was at, when it came to me trying to write a story and tell the story. Now, considering I started college in 1987, it's 2024, and TikTok didn't exist, and Facebook and Instagram and a few others like MySpace that died, and with the Snapchat and all these other social media, and I think Twitter, which is now X, all these things didn't exist. So I think what's happened is we've really gone from a situation where journalists, those qualities I just mentioned are the cornerstones, but we need some ratings. We need some clicks. We need some likes. We need some more. Now your audience is not just the number of people who buy newspapers or place advertising in them. Your audience isn't just who listens to your radio station. Your audience isn't just based off, what is it, Nielsen ratings? Your audience is not just, the norms of the past, okay? It is now social media. And to get a big bang, for something to go viral, that's where the money's made, okay? So what I'm basically saying is, yes, we're always going to have good and bad journalists. I would like to think that the majority of journalists we have are good. But you're going to have some journalists from time to time. They go for the ratings. They go for the viral comment, interview, the shock, something that's going to make things happen. And that's going to get results, okay? Because it means money. So when we think about this, the worst one I think we've heard yet that went viral was actually not a newspaper or a television journalist. How about the guy, what was it? Alex Jones, the shock jock, is ordered to pay huge damages after branding the Connecticut school shooting a hoax. Anybody remember that? Yeah, he went on to give his version of details on that day concerning Sandy Hook. And it was his version. It wasn't what actually happened. So $965 million in damages. I'm not sure if he is a wealthy man, but I think the message was sent knowing he couldn't pay that you have to be accurate, especially when things affect the future of people in our communities, and especially the children in our communities. So from a journalism perspective, I'm just going to say, leading up to the election, we're seeing some things that just simply aren't true because people want the ratings. And guess what? Whether you're mentioning, someone eating cats and dogs in a particular neighborhood, that's terrible because look, if it's valid, if it's happening, that's one thing, okay? And then also, if it is happening, on what scale is it happening? Was it one person, one time? Or was it hundreds of people, hundreds of times? So I think the way you report the news obviously is going to make a huge difference. But again, people are trying to get those ratings. So no one's going to go into the details that one person accidentally did something and they're going to go for the bang. They're going for the viral jump, the kill, to make money, to get the views, to get the likes, etc. So the danger in that is the people who actually get that information and how they process it. Like I said, kids are thinking, okay, it's on TikTok, it must be real.
Okay.
It's on YouTube, it must be real. It must have really happened. So that's where you have it can become very dangerous in how you influence the public. So I'll pass the mic back to Gary, but that's my take on journalism, ethics, and where we are currently as opposed to where we've been. And maybe gives us something to think about where we want to get back to or where we'd like to go.
All right. Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm going to shoot off rapidly a few of my thoughts. Number one, I don't think there's any such thing as ethics in journalism anymore. Those days are long gone since Walter Cronkite and Harry Reasoner and Dan Rather. He turned out to be an embarrassment because one of the problems I have today, and it's a part of the social media phenomena of the past 20 years or so, I'm amazed that journalists now want to be superstars, not reporters reporting the facts, what actually happened. How is it? And I hope I get a chance to hear Ed chime in on this since he's a former practicing journalist. But I have a major problem, especially based on the Society of Professional Journalism, SAP.org. They're supposed to be the Bible of journalism, and they have a code of ethics that journalists used to follow line by line, 10 code of ethics. And how is it that, like Yumis Alcindor, who's an anchor for PBS, or Ed, you got a lot of my buddies at the Washington Post, in the evening or during the daytime, they'll be on MSNBC, CNN as commentators giving their opinions, and yet they claim to be a non-biased reporter for the Washington Post, PBS, or the New York Times. So how is it that you can justify being a reporter for a legitimate outlet, and then I see you on the talking head shows giving the audience your opinion? The two can't coexist. And so that wall of separation between opinion, like Bill, you mentioned Sean Hannity, but see, he's not a journalist; he's an opinion guy, and he admits that. So you know up front when you go to Sean Hannity's show, he's a conservative. He's got a viewpoint. Juxtapose that with all the mainstream journalists, black or white, who claim, oh, I'm a journalist, but yet, and here's something I tell y'all to do. When you all are watching these news shows, the legitimate news shows and the opinion show, notice how on CNN, MSNBC, reporters are using I, I. If you are a good reporter, I should never hear you use the word I, because when you say I, that means that's your opinion. With this issue in Ohio, here's the challenge I have with what you said, Bill. I've sent Gary several videos, eyewitness account, and they actually got videos of a Haitian woman killing and eating a cat. They got the actual cell phone video. So my question to the journalism community is, why has NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, why have not one of them sent one of their reporters to talk to people who said they were eyewitnesses and got video to show for? There are 911 police calls of a guy saying, I saw these four Haitian guys, they took a duck, cut his neck off, or a geese, and ran off with. I would say that 90% of anybody that calls 911 is probably telling the truth. But again, even if you doubt the veracity of that, don't you think it's incumbent upon the journalists to go and investigate? And the city manager said there's nothing to that in response to what Trump said during the debate last week. The governor of Ohio on the Sunday morning talk show said those stories are made up. But yet you got people on the ground, and this is what J.D. Vance and Trump are quoting. You got eyewitnesses, and some of them have video footage of it, and yet the media is so lazy because it doesn't fit their narrative. They won't go and investigate as a journalist should. And then two other things. ABC News. I'm sure all of you all have heard about the supposed whistleblower signing the affidavit saying the debate was rigged and he's got audio recording. You don't see the news media covering that. Again, it's not whether this guy is telling the truth or not. Your role as a journalist is to investigate to see if you can find some evidence to back up his claim. And what I find compelling is he mailed the regular postal mail this affidavit to himself, to his a lawyer, and the Speaker of the House here, Mike Johnson, the day before the debate. Some of the things in the debate he knew, and actually it panned out during the debate. So if he mailed it and he got the postmark stamped on the unopened envelope, and everything he said the day before the debate, some of these things actually happened. As a journalist, wouldn't that pique your curiosity? How did you know this before the debate happened, that Kamala Harris would have a smaller podium so that Trump doesn't dwarf her when they do the side-by-side shot? How did he know that was the agreement before the debate happened? And then the final point is, and I'd definitely be curious to get your thoughts. I've been a dues paying member of NABJ for decades, even though I'm not a journalist, I'm a columnist. But if you watched the interview with Harris yesterday, I was totally embarrassed. Not one of these journalists pushed back on her because she kept giving you word salad. Their first question out of his mouth was, can you say that the American people are better off today than they were 4 years ago? And she gave the same answer she gave last Friday in Philly, and then the same answer she gave during the debate. And nobody said, Madam Vice President, you didn't answer the question. My question was boom, boom, boom. And so journalists, and listen, I know why they did it. They are afraid of being cut off from the campaign as far as having access to the principals as well as their surrogates. And it's an incestuous dance that is very prevalent in D.C. If you do something a senator, congressman, president deems negative, they will cut your access off. And so it's an orchestrated dance here and these journalists have removed the line as to what ethics is and what it isn't. And I'm through.
All right, Edward, go.
Bernard, I owe you one. Number one, you from St. Louis. St. Louis guys, they really talk a lot, and you from the show me state. Everything you said was show me, show me, show me, right? But that's cool. I'm gonna let you get away with that because I got some solutions for you. Yes, I do.
Okay.
It would be interesting if journalists had contracts where they would definitely get paid as long as the stories they bring in were verifiable. That would give them a sense of freedom. But you put a lot on the table. I believe in objectivity. You know what? I agree with you, Reynard. That interview yesterday was boring. Her speech in front of the CBC dinner, boring. She's just doing the talking points. She's not really engaged in the moment. She knows it's the talking points. Well, she has a right to do that. That's fine, but it doesn't really give us much. So I agree with that. One thing I've put together, I'm building a website called KamalaInCongress.com. KamalaInCongress.com is going to feature her work in the Senate, because I think at this point, the only thing we can have to really understand what she can bring to the table, how quickly she thinks on her feet, the kind of questions she asks, the advocacy that she puts forth. The only way we're going to find that out is to look at her in the Senate. And it's all on C-SPAN, and my site is curating that information. So I want to throw that out to you. Reynard, do me a favor. What's the most important question you want me to address? Because as you know, you're from St. Louis, so you talk a lot.
I think the blurring of the line, where reporters, you're old school, and the old school journalist says a reporter should never be a part of the story. So the line has been blurred between true reporting and the reporter wanted to be a part of the story. And so the one question I'd love to hear you, then I have to get out of here, is how do you justify someone from the Washington Post, the New York Times, the PBS? They are full-time reporters, anchors, and yet you see them on MSNBC, CNN giving you their opinion. And yet they will say, I'm an unbiased journalist. I work for the Washington Post. Well, why do I know that you're pro-choice then? Why do I know that you support gay rights if you are an unbiased reporter?
Yes, it is pretty, scary and dubious and susceptible or suspicious. But let me just throw it out because you're right. I am old school. Now look at this. Here's the analogy. Newspapers traditionally have been objective, but they have editorial boards. There's always been a voice of the newspaper, an opinion of the newspaper. Okay, so the journalist must wear, in order to fully serve the public, wear two hats. Hey, here's the story objectively. Now, let me tell you, as a journalist, someone who was there, let me share with you what I learned and make it personal or whatever. It is nothing wrong with that at all. It's all about your professionalism. Can you do it? Can you make it known that this is my opinion? That's the key, Reynard. As long as you're telling the reader or the audience that, hey, this is my opinion, as opposed to this is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, I think is fair. I think it's traditional as well. We've long had that in a free society, free speech.
Let me give you a good example of the debate with David Muir. Remember when he said, Trump, you finally admitted that you lost by a hair, you lost the election, you admitted. And Trump said, no, I was being sarcastic. And David Muir's response was, no, I watched every clip of you saying that. I didn't see the sarcasm. Well, when did I care about your opinion? I could tell a joke before you, three of you guys could laugh. The other one say, I don't get it. Well, that doesn't mean the joke wasn't funny. That just means you didn't get it. So why would David Muir say, I didn't see your sarcasm if he was being a journalist? That's irrelevant.
I love your criticism. I think he worded it totally in a way that you could challenge it. If I were to give him the advice, you put it in the passive sense. In other words, it's basically, instead of saying, hey, I didn't notice that, the question could be, well, Donald Trump, what do you say about people who say that it was blah, blah, blah?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
you take yourself
Perfect.
out of it. Absolutely.
Yep. Perfect.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
have some
yeah.
we have some common ground here.
Can I
I
say one
know
more thing?
Bill and Carlos are having a fit, I'm sure.
I think
May I
Renard
say-
is trying to audition to stay on the show. I can't believe he's agreeing with some of this stuff.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, he's trying not to lose his access, right?
Yeah.
Let me say this. I'm solution oriented. I think Black men must go to war for our truth. We must go to war. We should be on TikTok. We should be on Facebook telling the truth, doing conversations just like this. We should go on TikTok and put a link to this interview everywhere the people are, especially young people. We should be there.
Yeah,
There's no
but
question
Ed,
about it.
I agree with you, but I'm a pure absolutist when it comes to free speech. I don't want to hear Black folks saying on social media that we shouldn't be white folks shouldn't be allowed to use the N-word. No, guess what? If you're using it on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, guess what? If I don't like you using that word, I don't have to go to your channel. That solves the problem. But just like if I wanted to do a speech, say Hitler was a great leader, which he was, but he used his leadership skills for bad purposes. But that doesn't, matter of fact, in order to get a whole country to do what Hitler did in Germany, you got to have some serious leadership skills. And again, that doesn't justify what he did, but I should not be punished for me making a statement that is purely factual.
Remember when Farrakhan said Hitler was a great man? And what he explained, he said, "Hey, he was great. Like you just said, he's charismatic. He got a lot done, but the timing was not good." And Farrakhan intentionally played both sides of the fence on that. Okay, Farrakhan knew it was provocative. Then he fell back and said, "Hey, I wasn't saying that he was good. It was good what he did, but he was powerful." So Farrakhan was doing that intentionally because he was getting paid by the Gaddafi, et cetera, to pretty much carry the water for the Islamic point of view.
No question.
Okay. All right.
Ed, I remember that particular incident. And Farrakhan was asked, what did he consider a great man? Farrakhan said that Hitler was a great man.
Right.
Abraham Lincoln was a great man. And I believe he was one other person. He said, but just because you are a great man, it does not make you a good man. And what the press did, because they wanted to create a rift between the Nation of Islam, and they pulled out that soundbite. And that's something that Farrakhan got caught on, was the soundbite. He was saying Hitler, yeah, he was a great man, but he was not a good man.
Well, Farrakhan knew better. He knew better. He knew he shouldn't have.
I can't say
He
what he
knew
knew.
he was throwing meat to the dogs. He knew that. He's playing on the controversy. You see what I'm saying? He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. So we can't say he got caught up. No, he meant to get caught up. That puts him in the news. That helps feed his audience. Yeah, Farrakhan's telling the truth. Blah, 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 blah. See, I don't give these people, you can't be smart and dumb at the same time. Yeah, you can, but nothing is absolute, but you cannot be smart and dumb at the same time. So you can't say you are so smart, you're the president, you're running for vice president, and then say, I don't know. Like, okay, Renard, here, we're going to hit home with you, my brother. Trump says he didn't know anything about Project 2025. Well, how dumb can you be as a presidential candidate and not even know what your fellow Republicans are championing? That is so ridiculous. Lying right in our faces. Renard, please adjust that.
Well, just
Renard has a hard stop.
Just
I know he has a hard stop.
Just to interject.
That's that one issue. Again, what's the old slogan? Is not what you know, it's what you can prove. Now, I was involved with Project 2025. A lot of people from Trump world actually wrote the report. J.D. Vance actually wrote the introduction to it. But there is no direct connection for Trump and the campaign with Project 20. So factually, he's telling the truth. Now, if you and I are sitting at the bar drinking, of course he was involved in it. But as a
Okay.
journalist, where is your evidence other than his people were knee deep involved in it? And so, as a journalist, you got to be able to make a direct line back to Trump as a journalist now. I'm
I
not
agree
talking
with you.
at the
I
local
agree
bar.
with you one second. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we are in the local bar right now. You get
Well,
what I'm saying?
I ain't got no wine in my hand, that's for sure. You sucker,
Okay.
Gary.
All right.
I know this is my bar, man. I only serve non-alcoholic. Now look,
Right.
Raynard, I know you got a hard stop, right? You got a hard
Yep.
stop. You got to leave.
Yeah.
All right. I tell you what, you leave so we can jump on you while you're gone. Because that's what we do.
Raynard, we appreciate you, brother, man. We appreciate you coming out, man. We ain't gonna say too many things about you. But hey, keep coming back, brother. We always a good talk.
Carlos, I believe you about as much as I believe Kamala Harris.
I thought you would say something like that.
Oh, you up here in DC?
Hey, look, if you didn't say something like that, I'd be like, is that really Raynard?
Right.
I would think something's wrong with him.
Carlos and Spivey, they up there in the DMV.
Okay, sometime in October, and we at those in DC, let's get together for lunch or a dinner, just chew the fat in person without these other guys.
All right, you got it, man. You got it.
So we can raise the IQ quotient.
Okay. I look forward to that. All right.
Okay, guys.
Okay, thanks so much. Good to talk to you guys.
All right.
Take
All right.
care, brother.
Okay,
All right.
Raynard.
Take care. Be careful.
Oh, that was a good discussion. Edward, I'm gonna tell you, man, that was good. And I'll tell the fellas, and I don't even know if I shared this with you, Edward, but I shared it with my wife last night. And I got off the phone. I said, I was talking to this guy, Edward Sargent. I said, and I was railing about the Republicans this, Republicans that. I said, before I know it, he done slapped me around metaphorically and had me in checkmate. I said, I couldn't disagree with him, because when you told me about Black men sticking together and this Black Republican, this guy in Atlanta with the barbershop, he's entitled to his opinion. I'm railing and like, good for him. What did he expect? Where people don't come to his barbershop now because he's stumping for Trump. But you pulled my coattail, man. You got me in a logic trap, and I said, I gotta have Edward Sargent on the show. You got
I like
me,
that
man.
expression, the logic trap. But explain what you mean, because I don't think you really brought it home for people to understand what was the logic trap.
Well, basically, what you did with me is sometimes what I used to do with people in my seminars, particularly people who never thought that they had any kind of bias, is walk them down a path of focused logic. And that path lended it to a dead-end street. And basically with me, you were basically saying, this Black man is entitled to his opinion. And why should we not support his barbershop if we're all about supporting Black people and Black businesses?
There it is, man. There it is. You can't have it both ways. You can't talk about Black unity and then put this brother, because he's a Republican, on in the garbage can. We can't do that. We're men. We must stick together unless something really egregious happens. Okay? We must embrace each other. How else are we going to advance ourselves? Yes. And see, here's an analogy. Okay, remember Hilfiger? Remember way back in the day?
Tommy Hilfiger?
Yeah. Remember he said, I don't want Black people wearing my clothes because it's going to devalue his fashion.
His brand. Yeah.
Okay. Now, have we stopped buying Hilfiger? No, we haven't stopped buying. Look, I had a Hilfiger coat when he said that. I took it off. I no longer, because that's how I roll. I make it personal. Okay. But guess what? Check it out. This is the funny part. This is the funny part here. I am today wearing a Hilfiger skull cap. Why? Because it was the only one there and my head was cold. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? But I didn't make a violation of my moral code, but this is something that's practical. But my point is, why ostracize a black barber, a small businessman, when we're not ostracizing companies like Walmart, et cetera, who are owned by the 1% and who don't care about us at all, and who are participating in this whole Project 2025 and all this kind of stuff. How far do we know who we are as black men? That comes down. That's the question. Do we know who we are and what we stand for and what we don't stand? That's my thing. Like I said, I have a passion for black men. Okay, I grew up in the 70s reading a book called Black Voices. Many of us seen that book. Remember, it was real thick. Langston Hughes, James Weldon Johnson, all the greats were in this book. And I was like 12, 14, 15 years old. I was amazed. I said, you can actually say this in a book? You know, because Langston and all of them were taking the white man to task during the Harlem Renaissance. So that changed me. I became a race man. I became someone who realized as a black man, I can speak truth to power. I must look at myself first. And I believe in the rise of the black man. I can't say it enough. We must stay together no matter what, unless it's totally egregious. Let's tolerate each other because we have a common goal. And we have a common enemy. And that's the point.
Mr. Spivey, you're our elder statesman. What do you say? What's your reaction to what Ed was saying?
You know, what Ed was saying is something that was very common back in the 70s. But today, I don't think you can get a group of black men together to write a book like that, because you will get so much pushback, because you will have black people who say the book is wrong. Back when he's talking about the 70s, black men stuck together. That was what I was talking about earlier when I talked about, the Proud Boys going to Springfield, the Proud Boys going to Charlottesville, with the swastikas. I remember in the 70s, I don't know if Edward remembers, but I remember the 60s when you had the sit-ins at Woodworth counters and people were trying to, would not serve black folks. Black people stuck together and they were able to be successful in getting things that people take today for granted. That's why when I hear young people talk about, I don't like my choices that I have to make. I don't like Kamala. I don't really like Trump. I don't like my choices. Well, do you know how many people got hung and strung up? How many buses got bombed to give you the right to vote? Excuse me?
I think he has some background.
That's me in the background. I'm moving around again.
Okay.
Yeah.
People died to give you the right to vote. And now you take it as a choice. I don't like my choices. So times I have seen over the decades, I've seen times change. And there's a lot of contributing factors to that. Interracial marriage is one of the big things today in the United States. It was not back in the 60s. It was not back in the 70s, because in some places it was illegal. So those are the changes that have occurred. But I agree with him. I remember that book, and that was one powerful book. But those guys came together and wrote it. And you can still get it today, I'm sure.
Hey, guys, I want to just jump in there real quick and say, as far as gathering black men together today to do something positive and have an impact on some things, it's a lot tougher than it was, obviously, in the 70s or 80s or even prior, because what's happening is you're getting kids or young people who no longer have a direct link. Even though I was born in 1969, me growing up and going through elementary school, I heard about Martin Luther King being assassinated like it was yesterday, like for the first 10 years of my life, and everything that went on. And Roots came out in 76, and I'm watching Roots, and I'm going through Black history like every single day. Like I'm being reminded of where we're coming from, where we're trying to go. That message was not happening. The further you got away from Dr. King's assassination, the further the young people who were being born in different generations got away from where they came from. I have stories of my parents being so happy they could go to a park in 1964 when blacks and whites could share the same park. What kid in high school is going to tell you a story about their parents passing on to them? They were happy about going to a park or being able to go someplace where white people could go as well. It doesn't exist. So they're getting further and further. And then think about this. Kids that were born after 1980 helped put Barack Obama in office in 2008. Okay. So you figure if they're born in 1980, what, they're 28 years old? Most of their young adult life, they had a black president. They're thinking, hey, everything's all right. We ain't got to worry about nothing. We got a black president now. And if you were born in 1990 and you were 18 years old when Barack went in 2008, after the 2008 election, you really think you don't have any problems. So I think the issue is trying to get black men together to rally for causes. But a lot of the younger generations don't know there is a cause. There is a reason to get people together. And I think that's what we're fighting against. And then they don't realize it until something happens on their job and they've outworked or outperformed someone, and someone with a little less color gets the job. You know, they don't understand it until maybe, just maybe, there's a legal situation and their friend who's a different race has a brand new car, drives to a certain neighborhood and speeds all the time and never gets stopped. One day they go 7 miles or 8 miles over the speed limit, get pulled over and get guns drawn on them. They don't realize that there is an issue or that we're still fighting for something until it directly affects them. So that's something that our generations will have to continue to work on to try to educate younger people because the struggle still continues. That's my take.
Yeah, that's beautifully stated. And you just, let me take 30 seconds. You just right now help me understand why it is, why these this generational knowledge and experience isn't passed down. It's because, like you said, they're not experiencing it as much. That's what, see, we were experiencing it in the post-civil rights generation. We didn't experience the segregation, but we understood it because our parents were there and it was on TV and the music and everything. So we got it. And that's why I think my generation in particular, we pretty much dropped the ball because we thought, okay, it's over. We're good now, just like you just said. Okay. And that's, it's like, that's hard. That's a hard nut to crack unless we're doing it all the time. Like America, great, make America great again. USA, 4th of July, George Washington holiday. It's always in the atmosphere about whiteness and white supremacy. We have to counter it, not necessarily with quote unquote black supremacy, but black excellence. We have to make it so much a part of what we do, But yeah, I just had a moment. Also, I think it's important that let's not even try to unite everybody. All we need is a critical mass. A critical mass.
Yes.
A critical mass. Do you know what percentage of the society is in the military? Just take a guess if you don't know. What percentage of the population, the entire population, is protecting us, the nation? What percentage is in the military?
20%.
18, 12%?
Less than 5%.
Much less than 5%. It's like 3%. Can you believe that? 3% of our people is or are protecting the masses. What does that tell us? As a black man, it tells me, well, it gives me hope. I don't need to have everybody on board. The four of us, okay? I think my fraternity has a saying, 8 men thoroughly immersed in the true Omega spirit are greater than 80 with lukewarm enthusiasm. It's always the minority. It's always the minority to create change. And then everybody gets on the bandwagon.
All right. Hey, look, and Mr. Sergeant, since you're from DC, when I asked my mother, what was that man singing about on the radio? She said, come on now, that's our man right there, Marvin, singing about what's going on.
That's correct. That's right. The legendary.
Jackson boys, right?
Say what?
Edward, let me tell you, man.
Go ahead.
You got anything else to say? Because you've been a great guest in terms of dropping some pearls of wisdom on it. At least I'll speak for myself on me.
All I'm doing is following your footsteps. That's all. I'm honored to be here, to have a space where black men can really be who we are. Educated, experienced from the streets to the suites, as Jesse Jackson used to say. But speaking of Marvin Gaye, I just discovered his house over here in Northwest. I think in not Meridian Hill, but up here, up 16th Street.
Off Military Road or something, I believe. Yeah. It's somewhere up 16.
Somewhere around there. I think we need to take a pilgrimage every day, every year on his birthday. Let's make that something that helps us teach the young people. Right? And you should see it's a beautiful house. Beautiful house. tucked away.
You know, it was
Now,
really funny. It was really funny. I was coming back from Virginia Beach on Monday, and I like to listen. My wife and I were on the road. We like to listen to Smokey's Soul Town.
Oh yeah, on
And
Sirius.
I was amazed at the songs War, What's Going On, and all of the songs that were made back during the Vietnam era. And
That's
they
right.
told the story. You don't have
Yep.
that anymore. That's
Nope.
Yeah.
that's a dying
Yep.
breed.
We got gangster rap. How about that? Killing each other. N-words just killing. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, itches and rows. You see, I didn't say the
Yeah.
real word. Itches and
Yeah.
rows. Yes, you know, you should have seen at the party I went to last week, the Black and Gold Gala. It was parlaying off the Congressional Black Caucus. It was at the Shoreham Hotel, which was away from all the real activity. Man, it was like let me just say it. Well, no, let me not say it. I almost
ahead
had a
and say
heart
it.
attack. There was so much cleavage. Well, I told you, my brother, I'm not going to condemn us, you know, straight up. I'll use code words. I think that's what we should do.
Okay.
It's like it was so much cleavage and so much tightness. Literally, my heart skipped a beat. It was too much. It was overwhelming. Can you imagine 1,000 women walking past you, going to the concert, and they're all dressed in this elegant attire, but the cleavage is just squeezing out the top. Some of them without a bra. Brothers, it was hard. It was hard on the brother. Okay. And I didn't even like it after a while. I'm like, this is too much. This is too much.
You know,
Okay?
my mother used to have an old saying, just because they make it in your size, don't mean you need to wear it.
That's right. That's right. Exactly, bro. I could share some pictures. You would, but it's all private, of course.
That's
And anyway,
what
yeah,
we have come to today.
that's where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we
It's
are.
amazing. Yeah, I would like to believe it's fake, but it's just like Trump. It ain't fake. They
What is it,
really
Gary?
meant this.
What is it Dr. Umar Johnson calls it? The European look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. I'll buy
Edward,
that.
hey, look, man, I am so glad you came on the show. You can always come back. We like to have you come back and then see your face so we can see the passion in what you're saying, man. That's what we miss.
Thank you. Man,
So we have to have you come back.
I've been to the restroom, the church, and the car, and it was too much distraction. I did that out of respect for what we
I
have.
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
but we'll have you back. And unless the fellas have any final words, we got a lot out of this. And, you know, and you and Raynard even found some common ground. I think his buddies are going to get on him, man. He was too accommodating. We walked him down a path of focused logic.
I think so. I think so, Ray.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Thought Brothers. We appreciate you watching us. And CJ's on special assignment. He should be back for our next show. But until next time, we are out of here. Hang on for a second, Edward.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Some people are made of plastic.